Hey, good morning. So we are still working on conversions. We're choosing units to solve a word problem today. So this is page 541 on lesson 26. Okay, so let's start out with our first read. Heather and Diego measure worms from their class compost bin. Heather measures a 3.5 centimeter worm, and Diego measures a 28 millimeter worm. Which worm is longer? How much longer is the longer worm? So make sense of what they're asking right now. So we're trying to compare who has the longer worm, Heather and Diego. So that was reading one. Now let's find information. Heather and Diego measure worms from their class compost bin. Heather measures a 3.5 centimeter worm. Diego measures a 28 millimeter worm. Which worm is longer? Okay, so which worm is longer? How much longer is the longer worm? Now, they give us 10 millimeters is 1 centimeter. So that was our first and second reads. Now just read so we can, usually it would be discussed, but now it's for you to solve. Heather and Diego measure worms for their class compost bin. Heather measures a 3.5 centimeter worm, and Diego measures a 28 millimeter worm. Which worm is longer? So we got to know Heather's or Diego's. How much longer is the longer worm? So one of them's longer unless they're equal. And looking at it, I don't think it's going to be equal. So right now, let's instantly make a table. 1 centimeter, we're going to go centimeter side, millimeter side. So 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. Okay, 2 centimeters is 20 millimeters. 3 centimeters is 30 millimeters. And now we have to figure out what this half of a centimeter is going to be. So this is 3.5. Now, I know that 1/2 of 10 is 5, so I can say 3 times 10 plus 5 more, 35 millimeters. Now, if I was doing this on a graph, this would be my x side, this would be my y side, this would be x times 10 equals y. And if I wanted to do the inverse, if I knew this value over here, okay, I could take this and go y divided by 10 equals x, y divided by 10 equals x. Now, we have a 28 millimeter worm. So if I wanted to go backwards, I could just do 28 divided by 10 to equal this number, okay? Or I can do it the other way and just kind of throw in my decimal, how it would be over here. So I know that 3.5 is 35. So what would my decimal be for 28? Or 28 divided by 10, and that number, that missing number right here is 2.8. Okay, because 28 divided by 10 is a lot like saying 28 divided by 1. Here's 28. Move the decimal back one spot, and it's 2.8. Now, we can compare these worms in millimeters and centimeters. So I could look at it two ways. So we have Heather. Okay, Heather has a 3.5 centimeter worm, and Diego, he's got a 2.8 centimeter worm. Okay, or we can put them in the same measurement, unit of measurement into millimeters. So Diego would have 28 millimeters for his worm, whereas Heather would have 35 millimeters. Sorry, there goes the lights again. Okay, now just doing greater than, less than, or equal to, right now you can see that Heather's worm is larger. 3.5 is larger than 2 8/10 by quite a little bit, but let's do the math because it says how much longer. So which worm is longer? So we know that Heather's worm is longer. So first question, Heather's worm. Is longer. Okay, how much longer? Well, let's find the difference. To find the difference, you must subtract. So I'm going to go 3.5 minus 2.8 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to make 3 into a 2 because 5 is smaller than 8. Make this into 15. Okay, 15 minus 8 is 7. Bring the decimal down. 2 minus 2, they cancel out. And we have 0 and 7/10 centimeters. So the second question, how much longer? 0 and 7/10 centimeters. Okay, or if you went by millimeters, 7 millimeters. Because if we just went 28 minus from 35, so we could have gone 35 minus 28 millimeters, and that just would have been 7 millimeters. All right, turning the page. Just quickly going through this. Heather and Diego measure worms from their class compost bin. Heather measures a 3.5 centimeter worm and Diego measures a 28 millimeter worm. Which worm is longer? How much longer is the longer worm? 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. You can use a picture to help understand the relationship between centimeters and millimeters. Okay, and this is a great way to look at this. So there are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So if I was looking at Heather's worm is right here, 3.5 centimeters. Well, that would be 35 millimeters. So 3.5 right there, 35 right here. Okay, you can write equations to convert centimeters to millimeters or millimeters to centimeters. To compare the lengths, the measurements need to be in the same unit. And that's the important thing. You have to put them in the same unit. You can't do 3.5 centimeters minus 28 millimeters and just and get a negative number. You have to be in the same unit of measurement. So it has to be either in centimeters, both of them, or both in millimeters like we did. Now, convert centimeters to millimeters. There are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So we went 3.5 times 10 is 35. 3.5 centimeters is 35 millimeters. Convert millimeters to centimeters. There are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. 28 divided by 10 is 2.8. 28 millimeters is 2.8 centimeters. Thinking you guys have this. So just do a quick little question right here. 1 4/10 centimeters equals blank millimeters. How many? Remember, centimeters to millimeters. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. 2 centimeters is 20. What would 1 4/10 be? Answer that now. Okay, remember to pause often and just keep up as you can. Turning the page. Okay, why do you need to convert one of the units of measure to solve the problem? Okay, so you need to convert one of the units of measure to solve the problem. Why? It's pretty simple. It's hard to compare units of measurement that are not like units. So, why do you multiply to convert centimeters to millimeters? Well, let's take a look. So I'm just going to do the simple T-chart again. Here is centimeters. Here is millimeters. If 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, you multiply, because this is your X side, this is your Y side. There are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So to figure out any blank number, say it was 30 or 3 7/10, all we do is take 3 7/10 and multiply it by 10 to equal what we would have over here, which is 37, because X times Y, X times 10 equals Y. Now, same thing. Why do you divide to convert from millimeters to centimeters? Okay, well, look at right here. I'm going to do it on the opposite side. So, millimeters. If I have 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter, if I wanted to go from the X side here to the Y side, I would have to say X divided by 10 will equal Y. And the reason being is millimeters are a smaller unit of measurement, and if I have 10 of them to every 1 centimeter, the ratio is 10 to 1, and then I just have to divide it by 10 to get the centimeter, which is the larger unit of measurement. All right, so who measured the longer worm? Okay, well, let's go back and remember it was Heather. Okay, how much longer was it? Well, we had 3.5 minus 3 it was 3.5 minus 2.8. So it was 7/10 centimeter, or 7 millimeters. They're the exact same measurement, just in different units. Centimeters obviously are a greater unit than millimeters. Okay, so if you look at the problem wording again, why can you give the answer in millimeters or centimeters? Okay, this is a really simple, quick, easy one. You can convert either unit to the other unit. Okay, which means millimeters to centimeters, or centimeters to millimeters. Okay, let's turn that page. So we've got some pretty productive things. We get to draw back to some skills that we haven't used in a while. So this is kind of a great question. I was pretty pumped when I saw it. Going back to some volume. Steve and Tom each build a box. Who builds a box with greater volume? How much greater is the volume? So that was question 1. We're trying to make sense of it. That's reading 1. Now let's go with reading 2. Steve and Tom each build a box. Who builds a box with greater volume? So making sense of this problem, finding the information, which is over here. How much greater is the volume? Okay, now, as you can see right here, this Steve's box is in feet, his unit of measurement. Well, Tom's box is in inches. So let's go over here. Let's make our chart. Feet, inches, 1 foot, 12 inches, 2 feet, 24 inches, 3 feet, 36 inches. Okay. Feet, inches, 4 feet, 48 inches, 5 feet, 60 inches, 7 feet. What's 7 feet going to be? 72 inches, and 8 feet is 84. That doesn't seem right. 460. 6 is 72. My bad, guys. 7 is 84. All right, let's just kind of keep going. Sorry for the little tiny mistake, remember? We all kind of make those. So now, looking over here, I have a choice. I can go from feet to inches or inches to feet. Okay, and personally, if I'm going to do volume equals length times width times height, I think it's going to make more sense to us if we take this problem here and turn these into feet, because then we're doing multiplication using smaller numbers like these ones. It's harder to go 60 times 84 times 24 than it is to go 8 times 4 times 2. So we are going to go and convert these right here into inches. Now, I can just take my T-chart over here and go, okay, inches to feet, and I can copy these, okay? And I know, so 24 inches was how many feet? 2 feet. Okay, I know that 60 inches, okay, is 5 feet. And I know that 84 inches is 7 feet. Now, if I take this one right here, so 60, 5 feet, 84, 7 feet, 24 inches, 2 feet. Now I just plug it in. Length times width times height. So I'm going to go 7 times 5 times 2. Volume here is 7 times 5 times 2 for Tom. Okay, well 7 times 5 is 35, and 35 times 2 is 70 feet cubed. And over here, length times width times height, volume equals length times width times height. So we're going to go 4 times 2 times 8. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And that's going to be feet cubed. So if we look at the 2, we have our answer right over here, 70 feet cubed compared to 64 feet cubed. Tom's box is greater. Tom's is greater in volume. How much more? So we just take our 70 feet cubed minus 64 feet cubed. And what's that going to be? Make the 7 into a 6. 10 minus 4 is 6. The 6's cancel out. 6 feet cubed. Okay. So Tom's is greater in volume by 6 feet cubed. Okay. Let's keep going. A tree in Kenji's backyard is 6 7/10 meters tall. A tree in Cho's backyard is 730 centimeters tall. Which tree is taller? How much taller? So first of all, let's go with a meters to centimeters table. So think about that before we start going. So we read it for the first time. Now let's find information. A tree in Kenji's backyard is 6.7 meters tall. A tree in Cho's backyard is 730 centimeters tall. Which tree is taller? How much taller? Show your work. Okay, so let's do our T-chart, meter, centimeter. 1 meter, 100 centimeters. Okay, 2 meters, 200 centimeters, 3 meters, 300 centimeters, 4 meters, 400, 5, 500, 6, 600, 7 is 700. Now, if we continue this, meters to centimeters, now we have right here, we have 2 numbers we could have put in, and I could have put it right here, and I probably should have. So we have 6.7 meters. Well, how many centimeters is that? 6.7 meters anyways. So we just multiply this by what? if I go from the x side to the y side, it's saying x times 100 will equal y. Okay, so what's 6.7 times 100? 670. And then we have 730 right here, and that's going to equal whatever is in this side, on the meter side. So now to get from the centimeter to the meter side, we take the y side and we do the inverse. Y, what's the opposite of times 100, divided by 100 to equal x. So we go y divided by 100 equals x. And another way you could have put that is y over 100 equals x. Okay, so what is 730 divided by 100 to get this one? We just move the decimal over 2 spots, and it's going to be 7.30 or 7.3. So now we can take this Kenji. We have both measurements. Kenji, Cho. So Kenji has 6.7 meters. Cho has 7.3 meters. Or Kenji, and this is meters, Kenji has 670 centimeters. Cho has 730 centimeters. Well, which number is larger both ways? 7 3/10 is larger, so 6 7/10 meters is less than 7 3/10 meters, or 670 centimeters is less than 730 centimeters. How much taller? We do 730 minus 670. 0 minus 0 is 0. 7. Going to regroup, make the 7 into a 6 and this into 13 because 3 is smaller than 7, so I had to regroup it. 13 minus 7 is 6, and it is going to be 60 centimeters or 6/10 of a meter. Okay, so all right, moving along. A rectangular coffee table is 1 2/3 yards long and 2 feet wide. Which of the following show the perimeter of the tabletop? Now, cool problem. Okay, so we're looking for the perimeter of the tabletop. Now, perimeter is the distance